What's on, people, and welcome back to another episode of Ghetto Gospel. So where we left off at. Last week, we talked about Israel blessing Joseph's sons. While he was blessing them, he talked about how God paid for his sins. And that's an idea way ahead of his time. Israel started blessing the younger son over the older one, and Joseph thought he was doing that by mistake, but he told him he knew what he was doing. The last thing we talked about was how he gave Joseph two sons an inheritance right along with their uncles, but he also gave Joseph a mountain for some reason. And now we caught up. So this chapter gonna be a little different. Chapter 48 is basically just telling us the last stuff Israel said to his sons before he died. Most Bibles title this chapter something like Israel's last words or Israel blesses his sons. But like a man, I personally would rather somebody not say nothing to me than to put some of these blessings on my life. Be that what it is, I'm gonna break each one down and tell y'all what he said about them rapid fire style. One last thing to remember, Israel knew these boys better than just about anybody else. So he was probably the most qualified person to say some of the stuff he about to say. Confused yet? Good. Here we go. Reuben was the firstborn, so he was supposed to get the biggest piece of the inheritance and be the family leader. And Israel acknowledged that boy was strong. At the same time, he crossed the line when he smashed his stepmomma. So Pops told him he wasn't gonna be nothing. That's some old Tubia Tyler Perry foolishness. There's some folks out there that like to say that what really happened was he just moved either his pops or his stepmama's bed, but I can't find no proof of that. Besides, I can't imagine holding a big enough grudge over just moving some furniture that you knock your firstborn son up out the first position. You heard that right, that boy lost that. I'm guessing these boys was attached at the hip, cause these are the only brothers that get mentioned together. Israel said he would never want to get wrapped up in nothing they got going on. And he don't even want nobody to associate his reputation with them. If you like, dang, why he do him like that? Then you must have forgot about episode 59, where them dudes unalived the whole city, cause one dude ran up in their little sister against her will. This YouTube, so I ain't taking no chances with the R word. And Israel basically reminded us of that and then said that them boys is cursed because they so violent and that they eventually gonna get scattered all over Israel. Israel the nation, not the dude. So they out too. Sound like these boys just can't get right. If you was waiting for somebody to finally get it right, this the one. So the first thing Israel say about Judah is that his brother's gonna praise him. If you see that word praise and immediately feel like you shouldn't be praising nobody but God, well, you ain't wrong. The fact that Israel said that make a whole lot more sense later on in the book. But for now, let's just assume he mean the word praise like congratulating or admiring somebody. But he ain't done yet. He got a lot more to say about Judah. The next thing he say is that his hands or his muscle, you could translate that word either way, but in this context it seemed to mean pretty much the same thing regardless. Gonna be on his enemy's neck, and that word neck could literally mean on the back of the neck, on the back of an enemy that's trying to run away, or it could also mean somebody who done left God or who just stubborn. And we don't really find out right now which one fit, but suffice it to say it's layers to this thing. He got a lot more to say about Judah, so I'm gonna try to cruise through the rest of it right quick. So he also say his father's sons gonna bow down to him. Notice he say father's sons and not just brothers. He called him a young lion that be out here killing it, and then asked the question who would dare to rile him up. He said he ain't gonna lose his scepter or the staff that's between his feet until a righteous one come. I'ma circle back around to this one. He say the obedience of the people belong to him. He say he gonna tie his donkey in the donkey's coat or baby to a vine. He say he gonna wash his clothes in wine and he gonna wash his clothes in the blood of grapes. I'ma come back to this one too. And he say his eyes is darker than wine and his teeth is whiter than milk. I imagine in an era with no dentist, that's pretty impressive. Now I was gonna try and keep going through the rest of the brothers, but it's too much to talk about with Judah. If I tried to fit the rest of the brothers in this episode, this thing would be way too long. So if you ain't figured it out yet, Judah got the first position over his brothers. Reuben lost it for smashing his stepmama, and Levi and Simeon lost it for unaliving all of them folks and making Israel look bad and have to watch his back. Now I ain't go into this at the time, but remember back in episode 64 when one of the brothers suggested that they all sell Joseph because they wasn't gonna get nothing out of killing him? Well, that was Judah. You could look at it sideways. I mean, he could have had Joseph's back, but in a way he did save that boy's life. You might also remember episode 66 where Judah ended up smashing his daughter-in-law because he thought she was out there selling it. I'm guessing Judah started getting his act together, because by the time you get to him and the rest of his brothers meeting up with Joseph in Egypt, you see he the one doing all the talking and willing to give up his freedom to save his little brother Benjamin. Now that part where Israel talk about the scepter and a staff between his feet, I mean, let's just say that the idea of a dick measuring contest ain't a new idea. That concept go way back. And the thought is that the person in charge is the person carrying the staff, you feel me? And he's saying that Judah gonna have it until whoever this righteous person is show up. Now the other part I said I was gonna come back to is the part about washing clothes and wine and in the blood of grapes. Some of y'all might hear that and be like, it sounds like they're saying the same thing. Don't wine come from grapes? And it do sound that way. But in Hebrew, when you see somebody saying something twice, it's like you putting extra oomph on it. Like if you said somebody's kids was bad, same idea. It's a bunch of smart people that done studied this and came up with different ideas of what it might mean. Chances are, it's layers to this too. It might mean that he gonna have so much wine that he'll be able to use it to dye his clothes. Remember back then, folks had to grow grapes to make wine. If you got enough to use it to dye clothes, you probably ballin'. But also, later on in the book, you gonna see that crushing grapes is a metaphor and that it means something different, just like the staff from early. In that particular metaphor, the one about the grapes, mean you done went to battle and came back looking like you done been in a wine press. This what that look like if you ain't never seen it. So I'm gonna stop right there and save the other brothers for next week, because I don't want this video to be too long. But if you don't know Jesus and you trying to get to know him, go and click that first link in the description down there. I'll see y'all next week, and as always, peace, and I hope y'all people straight.